fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. In 1971, President Richard Nixon took the U.S. dollar off the gold standard, turning the U.S. dollar into fiat money, government money, fake money. In 2008, the world economy crashed when fake assets, fake mortgages, and fake financial experts led us down a path to ruin. Think about this. Why do schools choose not to teach us about money? Why are 78% of all Americans living paycheck to paycheck? Why are students staggering under $1 trillion in student loan debt? Because a fake world makes the rich richer and the poor and middle class poorer, and that's exactly how the government wants it. The only way to protect yourself is to learn how to separate the real from the fake. Go to RichDad.com to get your copy of Fake by Robert Kiyosaki and learn how to spot the manipulation of reality we live with every day. Don't get fooled again. Get your copy of Fake by Robert Kiyosaki at RichDad.com. That's RichDad.com.
This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Hello. It's Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And today we have a very, very important show. Our job at Rich Dad Radio is to have you see clearly now what a lot of people do not see. So this is my question this morning. What's going to be the cause of the next big crash? What is going to bring the house of cards down? Now, there's many things. This might not be the only one. But once the house of cards starts coming down, the crash, it goes to crash, then collapse. So please pay attention, because this is a very, very important show, especially for those of you who are old guys like me, baby boomers. Because what's going to bring down the next crash is a thing called pensions. And our pensions are sorely underfunded. Back in 1999, I started working on a book called Rich Dad's Prophecy. And I said the biggest stock market crash would occur in 2016. And I was off by 2 years. It actually hit. The crash started in September of 2018. And the reason it didn't come earlier was simply because I did not foresee the insanity of the system. You know, how in the world can the Federal Reserve Bank print trillions of dollars? Why do we let them do that? You know, and the reason we let them do that, it was to save the rich. It was to save the very people that brought us a subprime crisis. And now they're the same people, the same guys, you know, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, all those guys who made billions off of the subprime crash in 2007, 2008, have made billions for the last 3 decades off the baby boomers in pensions. And what we're going to talk about today is why are pensions a problem? Well, one reason is there's no money in them. And they estimate 10 million baby boomers retiring every day in the United States alone. But this is all across the world. The baby boom came up about after World War II ended. And millions and millions and millions of them don't have any money to set up for retirement, or they think they do. So the purpose of the Rich Dad Radio Show is to have you take a look to see what you might want to see. We're not asking you to agree with us, because it's hard to see the future a lot of the times. But I can tell you this much, there's one thing for certain. We're all getting older. And I wish the baby boomers were not getting older, because I'm one of them. And I wish I didn't need a pension. But let me tell you something. When your working days are over and you're lying in a bed, you're going to wish you had a pension. And so that's what today's discussion about. And today we have a very special friend. He's Councilman Sal DeCiccio. He is he's District 6, the same district I am in. He's serving on the Phoenix, Arizona City Council since 2009. And he's been a guest on this program. We talk about this all the time. It's how functionally incompetent our public servants are. But worse than that is how functionally incompetent our public servants are at managing their own pension. You know, as I always say, what did school teach you about money? The answer is nothing. So in 2008, you may remember this, but a lot of these guys found out, a lot of people found out their councilmen or their so-called public servants got taken by the banks. You know, like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, they went in there and just ripped off the pensions. But now it's too late. This is 10 years later. Now it's too late. They're going to rip us off one more time. The very guys who brought you the last crash, And they're about to crash it again. There's only one big problem. Baby boomers are out of time. There's either time or money, and baby boomers have no time and no money. So I'm talking about me right here. Like I said, again, I wrote this book called Rich Dad's Prophecy. I predicted it would come in 2016. Well, I was a year and a half late. But it's coming right now. That's what happened in September of 2018. It started to crash. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important show. Even while I'm not a baby boomer, but trust me, it will affect you, especially if you have a father or mother or a grandfather or a relative who's a baby boomer and they're out of money, they're going to move in with you, or they don't have money for medicine. And when you look at what's going on in politics today, all of these guys, all the socialist left, I generally call them communists, they're basically saying they want free food, free education, free manicures. That's great. I mean, I support that too. I wish everybody could have free. They now say, well, whether you want to work or not work, we'll give you money. Well, that's good. I can support that. There's only one question everybody asks, well, how are we going to pay for it? And so I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but when you have communists running our system because they're functionally incompetent, we have a problem. And Sal, you've been on this program so many times talking about how incompetent our public servants are. Any comments on this?
Well, I think you can sum it up into one word: corrupt.
No, don't tell me that.
I have to tell you, the system itself is completely corrupt, and it is. And they know what they're doing. And it's not just the politicians that know now. Right. I mean, you got to know now. By this point, everyone's talked about it. It's the people that are in charge of the pension system, in charge of the local governments that are completely corrupt. They know what they're doing. And they know that if they don't fix it, you're going to see less and less money going to services. You want to know why you don't have your potholes taken care of, why you don't have enough police on the street, is because more and more money is being soaked up and eaten by these pension systems. So the collapse is already starting to happen, Robert. It's starting to happen in our cities across the nation. When you start seeing cities where in Phoenix, we have, I call them the melting street signs. They look horrible. They're not even replacing those doggone things. The reason why is that the funds are being eaten up by the pensions. We have more money than we've ever had in the history of the city, ever. Except we don't have enough money to do anything else. We cut our back on our services across the city.
And services are like police, fire,
right.
medical, and all this stuff.
That's exactly true. So what you're seeing now,
these are the very people who are counting on the pensions.
Oh, it's corrupt. You're a lot nicer about it than I am, even though I'm a politician too. You're a lot nicer about it. It is a system that is fundamentally corrupt, and it's going to hurt everybody.
So let me give you an example of corrupt, okay? Because it happens. We all know it happens. These guys come, J.P. Morgan or Goldman Sachs, they come to down and they wine and dine the guys and the public servants in charge of the pensions. And they say, oh, by the way, we happen to have some private equity, we have some hedge funds, and would you like a trip to Paris? And we'll buy you women and song and dance, and we'll have a good time. That's part of the corruption, isn't it?
Oh, of course it is. I mean, if you look at it, even in Arizona. So we have hardworking police officers and firefighters, hardworking. But the people that manage the fund, the whole fund itself is corrupt because they have themselves running it. And they're the ones that get all these entitlements. They get the nice dinners, the nice places, and who knows what else is going on with them because it's so corrupt. And if you go after their pension fund, it makes it sound like you're going after police and fire, when in fact you're protecting them. You're protecting those hardworking guys and women, but the people that are running this thing are corrupt. In Arizona, we had a situation where we made more money off our pension system, but they had no extra money going in. $43 million went to the large institutions. This whole game, remember that whole...
That's J.P. Morgan, Lehman Brothers.
All of them. Yeah. All of them. It's just, if you look...
Goldman Sachs, you think?
Well, all you have to do is, what happened to that $770 million that President Obama and others promised? Yeah, remember that? What happened to that? It didn't go anywhere. It didn't help our economy. You didn't see $1 really going into our cities anywhere. You saw it just paying off these large entities, and you're going to see more and more. It's just corrupt. The people that are very wealthy, the ones that are in charge, the insiders is what I call them, always get paid out. Always. And the politicians go along with it.
Right. So if you had a crystal ball, I mean, you've been on this program many times, warning people.
Yeah.
And you're a real estate guy, too, on top of it. Mm-hmm. And we the last time we were here, I still remember you said, so these guys who are protecting the pensions, they went and built this brand new low-income housing condominiums that costs more than the best properties in Scottsdale. I mean, they built it on the worst part of town. It costs more money than high-income property.
Exactly.
And who ran off with the money?
They did. The government. The government workers worked out. What they did is, you got to pay off these pensions somehow, and you got to pay off these high salary, these high incomes, right, from these individuals. In the city of Phoenix, we're supposed to be known as a conservative city. We're not. But the average total compensation per employee for 13,000 employees is $115,000 per person. The reason it's so high is they have to keep feeding the beast. So all those monies have to be paid back somehow. What they did is they used these low-income projects, these affordable housing projects. Instead of going out for the highest and the best bid and the best quality, right? What they did is they chose themselves to manage it, so they were able to take the money. So in an apartment complex, it was $277,000 a unit, was the highest priced private sector complex out there.
In a bad neighborhood.
No. This is the good one.
Oh, the good.
This is the one on the city of Phoenix, in one of the, I shouldn't say the worst, but it's a bad area, on land that we owned, was building low-income housing apartments, $281,000 per unit.
So more than the 277.
Yeah, in a nice area that had valet service, had places that people would come by and pick up your laundry, did all that stuff, right? Olympic-sized pool. Over here, this was a low-income project because what happened is they chose themselves and they keep the extra money because they've got to take the money in from somewhere else. So the poor are being sacrificed at the expense of these pensions and the corrupt government officials.
So we're going to go into this idea of these pensions. How bad, and this is not just Phoenix, Arizona. This is worldwide. You know, like in Japan, they have a baby boom.
Greece.
It's Greece.
Italy. Spain.
It's the old guys, the baby boomers, who are going to be toast. And the sad thing about baby boomers, they were the luckiest generation in history. You know, they were born in right after World War II. They were in a boom. They bought a house. It went from $100,000 to $1 million. And, you know, they put the money in the stock market. It went up. But now the baby boomers are about to crash. So that's why I said in 1999, I started this book called Rich Dad's Prophecy. And it's about it says why the biggest stock market crash in history is still coming and how you can prepare yourself and profit from it. And that's the key. How bad is the pension system in Phoenix, Arizona?
It's horrible. It's really bad, Robert. And the fact of the matter is we're not giving real numbers out. They're not true numbers. Matter of fact, we were talking about this at the break. Congressman Jason Chaffetz, who's now a Fox commentator, and I have sponsored an initiative we want to take nationwide that requires you to put out real numbers. Because the numbers you're seeing now, the supposed $200 trillion in public debt, that's unfunded. $200 trillion, not $2 trillion or $20 trillion. It's $200 trillion that's unfunded, is based off of a wrong number. So they're using phony numbers to keep the public at bay is what they're doing right now. And so the one we got in Phoenix requires you to use a real number, a 10-year average, without getting into all the weeds on this thing. But the bottom line is if you don't have real numbers, you don't know what the problem is and you don't know how to fix it.
So when we come back, we'll be talking more about what you can do. And Sal's been my friend for about 20 years now. We work closely, professionally, of course. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's how we protect ourselves from what's coming. That's probably the most important reason for the Rich Dad Radio, so you can see clearly what's really going on that, you know, the public won't tell, our public servants won't talk about. One last thing real quickly. The public servants you're talking about, you're not talking about police or firefighters.
No.
You're talking about these city managers, a lot
exactly.
of them. And
all of them.
They come in, they get elected, they make their money, they move to another city. Is that correct?
Well, they don't get elected; they get basically hired on, okay. And they do a pension hopping themselves. The lower level guys never do this stuff. The higher level guys, they jump from one pension to the next. That's why you see a lot of movement in government.
It's a bowel movement.
Oh, it's a scam. The whole thing's been scam, Robert. I feel so bad for the public. Yeah. And they need to pay attention to this.
And so what this ultimately means is that what Sal is saying, if the funds are empty, that means you lose services like fire, police, emergency medical, streets, schools. You start losing a lot because the very guys that brought you the subprime crisis are bringing you the next crisis called the pension crisis.
You're listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki.
Don't be like Charlie. Charlie is that do-it-yourselfer who does himself in. Do-it-yourself is good for tile and grout. It is not good for asset protection. Charlie thought he'd save a few dollars forming his LLC online. With no guidance, he did it wrong. When he sold the property, he lost thousands and thousands of dollars. He did himself in by trying to do it himself. Don't burn yourself. Use Corporate Direct to set up and maintain your LLCs and corporations. Corporate Direct is owned and operated by attorney and rich dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Garrett wrote the bestsellers Loopholes of Real Estate and Start Your Own Corporation. He is Robert Kiyosaki's attorney for asset protection. He and his team will do it right. Visit them at corporatedirect.com or call 800-600-1760. Mention Rich Dad and receive $100 off your formation fee. That's corporatedirect.com. corporatedirect.com.
What is your number one expense in life? Your number one expense. It's taxes. And I've asked the question is, how come there's no financial education in school, but why isn't there education on taxes either? You know, they tell you to save money, which is stupid. They tell you to invest in the stock market, which is stupid. But won't they teach you about taxes? So here we have Rich Dad advisor Tom Wheelwright. We're talking about his revision for his book, Tax-Free Wealth. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Robert.
So what's the tax-free wealth about? What's different this time? It's a revised edition.
Well, so what we did was this is the first major tax reform we've had in 30 years, 2017.
Was 86 was the last one?
86 was the last one, back when I was in Washington, D.C.
So many guys got wiped out because of that tax change.
They did. They did. It wiped out an entire industry, savings and loans. This new tax law is just as big, but in a very different way. It affects different industries. You know, the tax law is always a series of incentives. And the question is always which incentives and which ones apply to me. And so the key to revising tax-free wealth was, what changed so much in this new tax law that we can absolutely take advantage of? Seriously, the amazing incentives. For example, the bonus depreciation, for example, for real estate is unbelievable. You buy a $1 million apartment, get a $300,000 deduction or more the very first year.
So if you want to make more money and pay less taxes like Donald Trump and myself, get Tom's book, Tax-Free Wealth.
Financial freedom begins with financial education. Now back to Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Radio Show.
Welcome back. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because we're purely an educational show. We don't sell anything or advise you to do something with your money. So we archive them so you can listen to this program again. As an educational program, if you listen to this program one more time, your intelligence, your retention will jump and skyrocket. Your mind, your eyes, you can see clearer. But also you can then get your friends, family, and business associates to listen to this program and discuss it. When all of you listen to it and discuss it, you'll find your quantitative learning will jump through the roof. So that's why we archive it at richdadradio.com. And we're talking today about the coming crash. What is the next crash? And back in 1999, I started writing a book called Rich Dad's Prophecy. And I predicted, it says right here, Rich Dad's Prophecy, why the biggest stock market crash in history is still coming and how you can prepare yourself and profit from it. And it was supposed to come in 2016. And the reason is the baby boom generation is going to bring it down. Baby boom generation has been the luckiest, easiest life. You know, you put money in the stock market, you got rich, you bought a house, you got rich. But those days are over, sports fans. And so the problem with this baby boomers is they're out of time and many are out of money because our pensions are bankrupt. We've been robbed by the very, very people that robbed us in the subprime real estate market in 2007, 2008. And the same guys are robbing us again through our public pensions. And so what we have Congressman Sal DeCicci, is a friend, District 6 councilman, serving the city of Phoenix, Arizona. And he's been a guest on the Rich Dad Radio Show, always sounding the warning, talking about those corrupt public officials and the labor unions and all these guys who know nothing about money, but they get money by stealing. They're complicit with guys like J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley. If you remember the 2008 crash, they found out a lot of the things that people invested in were just bogus. And the reason that happens is because, let's say J.P. Morgan comes in and they wine and dine a public official So they get free trips around the world, flashy hotels, and dancing girls to their heart's content. And oh, by the way, here's a hedge fund, and here's a private equity fund I want you to invest in for the public employees. And that's why we're in the biggest crisis today. It's coming. This one cannot be stopped simply because the baby boomers are out of time and out of money. They cannot recover. They recovered in 2008. They're out of time for 2019 right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very important show. Question is, can you see clearly now? Our guest again is Sal DeCiccio. He's been blowing the whistle for a long time now. So, Sal, what would you say to a person right now? How would you protect yourself? What would you say to do?
Well, the first thing you've got to do is be aware that the politicians that are in charge are cheating you, and the people in charge of government are cheating you. And I've mentioned this quite a bit. It's not even a right or left issue anymore.
No.
It's not. It's the people that are the insiders that are profiting off the poor. And we use this example.
Oh, how about the middle class?
Even the middle class over everybody.
Yeah.
So why would government build a project that's more expensive than you can do in the private sector? This whole thing about, it's more expensive because it has to go through government. No, it's all a lie. That is not true. The reason that they do that is because they need the extra monies. So government is profiting off the poor. It's profiting off the middle class. It's profiting off everybody but themselves. It's designed to protect themselves. So if you look around, and it's really simple.
And they're complicit with the biggest banks.
They're complicit. They want more themselves.
Right.
That's it. It's just greed. That's their choice. But we should know about it, and you need to quit electing these politicians that are complicit there too.
That's not you can't change that.
It's shocking to me how bad it is. But if you look around, and this could be anybody on your program, if you see potholes, you see faded streets, you see street signs, you see less police on the streets, you see less firefighters, it's because the crisis is here. The public pension debt is already here.
How big is the public pension debt?
Well, I've heard numbers up to $200 trillion unfunded. That means that there's no money out there for it.
Correct.
The collapse is already here. It's starting to happen. You see it every day.
So we're cruising into it right now. Again, that's why I wrote Prophecy way back when. I got trashed by Wall Street. They said I didn't know what I was talking about. I said, I think I do know.
And it showed out to be true.
Yeah. And so, anyway, that's where we are today. The thing we're laughing about is you have people like my poor dad. He's highly educated, and my father was head of the teachers union too. So they're all on that side of the equation, should I say. They're highly educated PhDs, but they don't know anything about money. So these pension funds and hedge funds come in, they wine and dine them. And then what was that one pension? They invested heavily in Beanie Babies back when. They don't nothing. And they're directing the public servants' pensions. We're not blaming the teachers, or the firefighters or police. It's the guys who manage the city, right?
They're not professionals at it, but they're professionals at taking more and trying to find ways to protect themselves.
And as Sal says, they get a job here, they move on to the next city, and they do the same thing over and over and over again. So why is socialism gaining in popularity now? They want, Alexa Ocasio-Cortez and then Elizabeth Warren, who is part Indian. I'm more part Indian than she is. I look more Indian than she does. We're not solving our problems, are we?
No, these are all distractions. And they're distracting you from the real problem that's facing our country and our states and our cities. That's what's occurring right now. And everybody's being led by the nose, and we all jump in on that stuff and think, oh my gosh, what's the next thing we're going to be offended by, right? So, but what we should be offended by is what the politicians have done and the managers have done to really screw up everything and to take more from us, to give us less services. That is what we should be upset about.
But there's no way we're going to change that.
I think it is.
Not in time for
no
what's going to come anyway.
Robert, it's here.
Yeah, it's here.
It's already. You see it every day. If your city is facing financial problems, even though it has more money than it's ever had, the crisis has already hit you.
Right.
You're just cruising into it, as you said.
So so we have a lot of people who are police officers who are retiring and all this.
I feel bad for them.
Yeah, me too. But they also held themselves to the system too.
Well, at some point you've got to rely that you get some people up there that know what they're doing. When in fact, that I believe that they do know what they're doing. They're profiting themselves.
Correct.
The people at the top.
With Facebook right now, we interviewed one of the investors in Facebook, and he says misinformation sells better than real information.
Yeah.
And so now you have all this noise going on, and so people don't know what's going on. And that's really, really tragic. But that's why I'm glad you come on our program to speak what you know and all this stuff. What happened in Venezuela was Cuba sent teachers into Venezuela to teach communism. The Russians have been doing that in America for years. That's why most of our school teachers, like my poor dad, unfortunately, lean towards
The left.
Moscow.
Well,
and I'm going, how are we going to change that? We can't, I don't think.
we sat back and allowed the system to fail us, the system we built. You know what I mean? So no one paid attention to that, Robert, and it's the baby boomers' fault, quite frankly. We've been cruising, and we've been the luckiest generation for sure. But at the end of the day, we also had an obligation and a responsibility to take care of things, and we didn't do that.
And fake money is pretty obvious. They can print as much as they like. Why
Right.
would you save it? I mean, that makes no sense. And fake teachers. What do you teachers know about money? What does Elizabeth Warren know about money?
None, except she's been getting the money.
I know.
She's been on the dole the whole time.
Yeah. And then you have fake assets. Now, the definition of an asset from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, assets put money in your pockets. The trouble is your 401k, your pensions, all that, it's not putting money in your pocket. It's going into the pockets of the rich,
Yep.
your bankers, your pension managers, and all this stuff. And we're in the middle of it right now. And that's what's really, really interesting, should I say. So anything else you want to say to the public right now?
No, I think that they really need to pay attention. When you look around, all you have to do is look at your city. Look at what you drive on. Look and see if you've got enough police protecting you. And if you don't, you've got a major problem hitting your city.
Okay, Phoenix is your city,
Yep.
my city.
It is.
How bad is our pension?
It's horrible. It's really bad. I mean, all you have to do is drive around. We've got nothing but potholes throughout the city right now. One of our biggest complaints, we have less police officers now than we've had at one of our best points with more people, right? And we have more revenue than we've ever had in our history, but we don't have enough money to fix everything. The things that we are obligated to fix or we have a responsibility to fix, the crisis is here, and it's happening across America.
So you're a politician, you're also a real estate developer.
I hate the word, but
I know.
I
But
know.
I'm glad you're there.
I know. Thank you, though.
Sal and I.
I rip on politicians.
Yeah, I know. but Sal and I work together. Because we're real estate guys, and it's just amazing seeing the world from our point of view.
Yeah.
But it's just shocking. It's just shocking what's going on in the world today.
It is. And if you look at it, who's the biggest inhibitor of growth and job creation? It's been your government. I helped create what's called a 24-hour inspection, 24-hour permitting inspection, and 5-day site plan approval. We're the fastest in the nation now to get job growth occurring, right? You know who fought that? The government unions. The government unions came out in force saying, we don't need this. They were afraid they were going to lose a little bit of power and maybe lose one job. Instead of look at the tens of thousands we're able to create in the economy. If you don't do things like that, deregulate and find ways to be better, faster than your competitor, you're going to fail.
So what do you have to say to people like Alex Ocasio-Cortez and Warren, and they're going to tax the rich by 70%, and if they're going to have free income now, whether you want to work or not?
That 4-letter word, free, appeals to everybody. Everybody wants something free, right?
How real or how serious should they be taken?
Oh, I think they should be very taken. I think it's the minute that they came out with this and people were like laughing at it, I'm like, no, you don't realize the majority of the public wants something free. All of us do. I mean, everybody wants something free. If someone said, hey, look, Robert, I'm going to give you a big building for free, really no cost to you,
I'll take it.
You'll take it. Why not? Why wouldn't you? So if we're not taking these comments from the socialists that are coming out, thinking that it's okay, right now they're going to say tax the rich. Of course they're going to say that. That's
popular.
That's popular, of course. I would say the same thing if I were them. What's going to eventually come out is like, well, wait a second, we don't have enough money. Now we're going to have to go after everyone else. And sooner or later, you're going to be in the minority. You will be in the minority. If you're a producer in this economy, you will be in the minority very shortly.
So when you hear these people talking like this, everybody wants something for free now.
Yeah.
From your point of view, as from inside the city, what is it? Are people that desperate today? I mean,
I don't think that they're desperate. I think people want
Just
things
like
to
the
be
idea?
easy. Yeah, they like it. Why wouldn't they? If someone handed you something, you would take it. People, that is our nature to do that. We can't go around human nature. The problem is sooner or later it all collapses, and all you have to do is look at what's already occurred. When you have government running anything, they will be the profiteers. They are the new profiteers of the future. It's not as much corporate America, the small business guys, the large guys for sure. I mean, people don't realize this. I'm a conservative, obviously, more libertarian. But the large entities are the profiteers, and so are the government. And they've all learned from each other, and they take care of each other.
Once again, it's Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. We're talking to Councilman Sal DeCiccio, District 6 Councilman, serving the city of Phoenix, Arizona. We've been friends for years.
Yeah.
He's really, because one of the most important parts of what you do is called zoning, right? In real estate, you can take a piece of property that's zoned O and change it to a C, and the value jumps and all this. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know why Sal is my friend, is because he can help me in my zoning.
Yeah.
That's part of the real estate rule out there. But of course, we run into massive, massive headwind from those who are not in the real estate business. Well, you look at what's happening with, what's his name, Howard Schultz of Starbucks.
Yeah.
He can't use the word billionaire anymore. Doesn't that disturb you? He has to now say, I'm a person of means.
Yeah.
What is going on in this country?
What's going on is that everything we do, I mean, again, it goes back to this whole distraction that's occurring in our country right now, whether it's Trump or Ocasio-Cortez. These are all distractions. It's keeping our eye off the ball. And it is done very well right now, Robert. I mean, these distractions are keeping us away from fiscal matters. They're keeping us away from doing the right thing.
So we're going down.
It's horrible what's occurring right now.
I see. I'm a biggest pessimist and an optimist.
Yeah.
As a pessimist, I go, okay, if it's going to go down, what am I going to do?
Right.
Or you can pretend somebody will save us. So that's why with the Rich Dad Radio, people say, well, you're such a pessimist. Well, let's just say something else. The last crash, I made more money than ever before. Do you know what I mean? That's how I got that property on. When things crash, it's really a good time. So that's why we speak on both sides of the coin. If it's really bad, it could be really good. If it's really good, it could be really bad. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? So, Sal, I really thank you for being a friend all these years and coming about and, speaking when nobody else is speaking what you're saying.
I'm doing the best I can to get the message out there because at the end of the day, you've taught this and you taught me early on in the whole real estate world too. You've got to be able to rely on yourself. No one's going to come in and save you. If you think that that's going to happen, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah. And you got to have good friends around you too.
That know what they're doing.
Right. So once again, it's Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. I thank Sal DeCiccio. When we come back, we're going to the most popular part of our program, Ask Robert.
You're listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki.
Don't be like Charlie. Charlie is that do-it-yourselfer who does himself in. Do-it-yourself is good for tile and grout. It is not good for asset protection. Charlie thought he'd save a few dollars forming his LLC online. With no guidance, he did it wrong. When he sold the property, he lost thousands and thousands of dollars. He did himself in by trying to do it himself. Don't burn yourself. Use Corporate Direct to set up and maintain your LLCs and corporations. Corporate Direct is owned and operated by attorney and Rich Dad advisor Garrett Sutton. Garrett wrote the bestsellers Loopholes of Real Estate and Start Your Own Corporation. He is Robert Kiyosaki's attorney for asset protection. He and his team will do it right. Visit them at corporatedirect.com or call 800-600-1760. Mention Rich Dad and receive $100 off your formation fee. That's corporatedirect.com. corporatedirect.com.
Your financial education continues. Now back to Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Radio Show.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. And once again, you can listen to the Rich Dad Radio Show anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. Once again, we archive them simply because repetition is how we learn best. If you want to be able to see clearly now, I'm talking about where the next crash is coming. And there's going to be many, many areas, but one of the big crashes that's going to come is in pensions. And I wrote that in my book, Rich Dad's Prophecy. I said it was coming in 2016. Well, a year and a half later, in September 2018, it started to crash. So, ladies and gentlemen, the question is, what are you going to do about it? So once again, you can submit your questions to Ask Robert at richdadradio.com. So Melissa, what's the first question for Ask Robert?
Our question today, Robert, comes from Grayston in Round Rock, Texas. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I love Round Rock. Beautiful
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, he says, Robert, I get what you're saying, and I hear the warning bells on the coming crisis with the impending collapse of the 401k. I've stopped contributing, but I'm wondering, should I withdraw my money now and take the tax hit? Just looking for high ground before it all comes tumbling down.
So I appreciate the question, but as you know, Rich Dad Radio Show, we don't give advice. We're not financial planners or stockbrokers or real estate brokers. I tell you what I'm investing in, but I think the big question on your 401k is, it's up to you. And let me just say something else. If you don't know what to do with your money, leave it there. That would be my advice, because you can get penalized pulling it out, and who knows, it might go up. I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows. But I can tell you what, it's coming down also. This whole economy is coming down. So I think for people out there who are wondering what to do, my book Fake is coming out, and I've been a gold bug since 1972. I bought my first gold coin, a Krugerrand from South Africa, in 1972 for about $50 in Hong Kong. And I bought it in Hong Kong because it was illegal for Americans in 1972 to own gold. Imagine that. It's illegal to own gold. Now, they changed that in 1974. But that Krugerrand today is worth about $1,500 that I paid $50 for. So that should give you a relative indication of how worthless cash is. So the book Fake is about fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets. The big question I asked to my friend here in Round Rock, a beautiful part of Texas, is who tells you what to do? You can listen to me. I have multi-millions of dollars. What I would do is different than what you would do. But I started off with nothing also. So the point here is this: the problem with our fake teachers is you're listening to teachers who know nothing about money. My poor dad was a PhD. He knew nothing about money. Why would I listen to him? And so what's happening, the reason we're in this massive financial crisis is so many people have been programmed to be, tell me what to do. Let me tell you what to do. So you listen to these fake people. And what they tell you to do is invest in fake assets. Your 401k, your ETFs, private equity, and hedge funds. Well, damn it, start thinking for yourself. If you don't want to think for yourself, just leave it in that 401k. The big point of view is a book that, if you haven't read it, you should read it again. It's called The Cashflow Quadrant. Our school system is pumping out people who think like employees. They want to be told what to do. Tell me what to do. And where Rich Dad stands, and then if you become an entrepreneur, you become an S, small business, which is fine, but you pay the highest taxes. Oh, tell me what to do. How do I not pay taxes? Well, you got to stop being an S. And the next thing is the big B quadrant. That's for the 500 employees or more. Well, how do I become a B? Well, you better study and take some time. And then how do you become an inside investor? That's what it stands for. Outside investors are stocks, bonds, mutual funds, private equity, and hedge funds. I investors make their own deals. So when I talk to Sal, he and I are I investors. I create my own deal. I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. But that takes time, it takes practice, it takes study. So if you don't know what to do, I would just leave it in that 401k until you figure out what you want to do. But I would get the cash flow quadrant and figure out, when you grow up, you want to be an employee for the rest of your life? You want to be small business, self-employed? Knock yourself out. You want to be big business, 500 employees or more? That's a whole different mindset, a whole different educational process. And to be an insider, to be like somebody on Shark Tank, you got a lot of study ahead. So just know I'm investing from the I quadrant. That's the only place when I was a kid I wanted to make it to the I quadrant. It took a long time. It was painful. It was very expensive. Not just in mistakes I made, but that's how you learn. You make mistakes. Most school teachers are terrified of making mistakes. So that's why they don't go to S, small business. That's why they don't go to B, big business. And that's why they're not professional investors. They buy things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, hedge funds, and private equity. And that's why we're going to collapse. Because we have a bunch of highly educated poor people like my poor dad running the pension plans, and the rich guys who run Wall Street are sending them dancing girls and free trips around the world. So I hope that answers your questions. You can submit your questions to Ask Robert at richdadradio.com. But I think it's time you start thinking for yourself. And if your thought is, I think I'll leave it in my 401k, thank you. You thought for yourself.
Hiu hiu trẻ mùa lụt nước lũ bắt